皆さん、こんにちは。日本の不動産の冒険をご覧いただきありがとうございます。Thank you for joining me on this episode of my adventures in Japanese real estate. And for this episode, I thought I'd get into a little bit about the various regions of Japan. A quick overview. One part will be a little bit about where to live in Japan. The second part will be a little bit more about how to make that decision. We'll get into it after the intro. Let's begin with Tokyo because that's really probably where most people end up landing when they first come into Japan. Frankly, a lot of people, they think Japan, they think Tokyo. So either Tokyo or Kyoto. But those could be reasons to live here. Those could also be reasons not to live in this area. So you have to decide for yourself. What are some of the good and bad things about Tokyo? Well, Tokyo is one of the most populated places on Earth. And that means that it can be very convenient and very inconvenient at the same time. The transportation's amazing. The trains in Tokyo, of course, are very famous. You can basically get anywhere you want to go by train. You don't need a car, but those trains are crowded, especially during rush hour. They are really busy. The streets are crowded too. There's a lot of people there. And frankly, sometimes you can get lost in the shuffle of a city, and Tokyo is certainly one of those cities. There's a million things to see or do in Tokyo. Naturally, it is a really amazing place. But it's also really expensive. Costs a lot of money to buy houses there. Certainly Akiya's available, probably abound, but the price of land in Tokyo is quite a bit higher than the rest of Japan. So naturally you're going to feel that cost even when you buy an Akiya. Even when you buy a completely unlivable Akiya, you're going to pay a lot of money because that land is really valuable. But if you go outside of Tokyo itself a little bit, or you get into the outer regions of Tokyo, things can start to get cheaper. Saitama and Chiba are very popular places to go. A little bit further out, Ibaraki, Gunma, those places actually, things get pretty cheap there. And you're still relatively close to Tokyo, so you can get into the city within an hour's train ride or so. And so those places can have some really, really great opportunities. Also some great beach areas in Chiba, some great views in Chiba. Also, you can go down instead of up. So basically Saitama and Chiba kind of northeast of Tokyo. And then above that, you get places like Ibaraki, Gunma, places like that. So that's going north, but going south, you can also go into Kanagawa. That's where Yokohama is. Yokohama is a fantastic city. I really like Yokohama a lot myself. It's a lot quieter, but it's still a major city. In fact, it's the number 2 largest city in Japan. So, you know, when you get that kind of urban area where Tokyo and Yokohama are next to each other, and of course there's all kinds of bedroom communities all around, you get a lot of people, a lot of activity. So you really need to think about that. The suburbs are much more inconvenient, in so much as the train stops are fewer and farther away from each other, and a lot more expectation, of course, for people to use cars and stuff, but the roads are crowded. And Japanese roads tend to be 2-lane, maybe 4-lane roads, but these are not large superhighways. The expressway in Japan exists. It's not nearly as big as it is in some other countries. For good reason, a lot of people end up using the train, especially in urban areas. So the freeways or the expressways don't have to be quite as big. But they are also not freeways. They are expressways, and they're pretty expensive. So be aware of that. If you're moving into a suburban area and you need to commute into Tokyo, you may be looking at some extra expense for that commute. So those are things to sort of remember. As you push up a little bit north of Tokyo, then you'll get into some nice mountainous regions. There's also some great beaches. There's a vacation city called Nikko that's up there. It's quite famous. Beautiful places up there, getting further and further away from Tokyo. And so maybe if you don't have a strong reason to live in Tokyo, you might want to get out a little bit into even past the suburbs and even into some of the smaller towns that are out on the outlying areas of those prefectures. The same is true if you're moving west or south. South, of course, you're going into Kanagawa, the southern parts of Kanagawa. Fantastically beautiful. Of course, Kanagawa also has some very expensive areas. Yokohama itself is expensive. Yokosuka is expensive. Let's see, Kamakura, fantastic area, very expensive. All of the beach area from Kamakura to Enoshima, very expensive there, but fantastic areas. Fair amount of housing available in those areas as well. And of course, as you move further away from the city, they tend to get a lot cheaper. So even a lot cheaper than inside of the city of Yokohama. And then you move further down to Shizuoka. And Shizuoka actually has a really interesting area for people who are not looking for full-time life. They're looking for vacation home or part-year homes. There's a city in Shizuoka called Atami, which is built on the ocean side. Now, Atami is kind of on the mountains, so there's some risk there because you're looking at the potential of landslides, potential even of fires, that sort of thing. So, well, it can have its risk, but it's a fantastic area for some beautiful vacation homes that are basically built to be vacation homes. And so you're not looking at the neighborhood associations and the expectations of the neighbors so much, because everybody who's there is there on vacation as well. Now, these places have been vacation communities for a number of years, and so that means that some of the houses are older and some of the neighborhoods are definitely a little worse for wear, but you can get some amazing deals in the city of Atami or around the city of Atami in the Izu Peninsula area. So Shizuoka has some great opportunities for Akiya buying, and it's potentially got views of Mount Fuji in certain areas. It also has views of the ocean that are fantastic. It's not very far from Tokyo. So Shizuoka, very interesting place. So let's think about moving a little bit west of Shizuoka, and you're going to get into what's known as the Japanese Alps. This is the area of Yamanashi, Nagano, Niigata. These prefectures are fantastically beautiful. They are a bit remote, but of course, amazing skiing, amazing villages, and a lot of people go back and forth for vacations. So there are certain areas, especially in Nagano and a little bit in Yamanashi also, which are vacation house communities. And those are areas which, if you're not looking to stay full time, maybe those are places to buy into, because again, the expectation is much less. So looking into Yamanashi can potentially have some great views of Fuji also. And then getting into Nagano. Now, Nagano can be pretty expensive depending on where you go. Basically, the whole prefecture's price has been rising for the past few years, especially areas like Hakuba, Matsumoto. Lately, the Kiso area of Nagano has been growing. This is the area in which I live, so I know it pretty well, and it has a lot of development. Now, the northern part of Nagano City, is still affordable. Ueda City, which is just a little bit closer to Tokyo, quite affordable still. So there are definitely some affordable regions in Nagano. Also Niigata Prefecture, which is right next to it. Now, one of the beautiful things there is that you also have access to the Sea of Japan. Nagano doesn't have an ocean border, but you just bop down the mountains and you'll be in Niigata-ken or Toyama-ken. Amazing views of the Sea of Japan and the mountains on the other side. It's just really fantastic. So I highly recommend areas like Toyama. Toyama is a fantastic prefecture. Very, very good deals there. Niigata, same thing, although it gets a little bit colder. And then you're moving up into the Tohoku region. Tohoku region is the northern part of Japan, includes places like Iwate, Miyagi-ken, the city of Sendai, the city of Niigata City, Aomori, Akita. These prefectures can be pretty cold and very snowy in the winter. So if that's the sort of thing you're looking for, fantastic. Of course, there's great skiing up there, etc. So fantastic winter wonderlands, but also winter headaches. So if you're thinking about buying a place in a very heavy winter area, you've got to think about how you can maintain it, especially if you're not going to be there. And that's a big concern there's not a lot of options for you up there. So you got to think about that. If you move further south, well, first let's talk about Hokkaido. Hokkaido is, of course, the northernmost island, and that's going to be very similar to Tohoku. Some fantastic skiing up there. The city of Sapporo, the city of Hakodate, very famous cities. Fantastic views. The summers are nice and cool and very comfortable. The prices are a little bit higher in Hokkaido, especially if you're looking at Niseko or Rusetsu or places like that. Of course, Sapporo City can be a little bit expensive. It's a kind of resort area, but then you also have those advantages of buying in a resort community, so that can be a benefit. But Hokkaido is fantastic, especially if you are the type of person who likes winter, who likes skiing, and who likes cool summers. Now let's go the other way, and let's start to head down from the Tokyo area into the Chubu region, or the Tokai region. This is the area where Nagoya is. Highly recommend this region because the city of Nagoya is the third largest city in Japan. It's well, it's actually the fourth largest city in Japan, but it's the third largest metropolitan area, Aichi Prefecture. There's a lot of great opportunities here. It's very inexpensive. It's probably the most inexpensive urban region in Japan, and this is things like groceries are very expensive, and well, housing, of course, that sort of thing. So great opportunities in Aichi Prefecture, surrounding Gifu Prefecture, the south part of Shizuoka Prefecture, and there's some great nature in that area as well. Lots of mountains, lots of great beaches, and that sort of thing. So Nagoya City, very convenient city, lots going on. It's a typical Japanese city in a lot of ways, but tends to be quite a bit easier life than the bigger cities, especially Tokyo and Yokohama, and quite a bit more affordable. Then, if you move further down, you're going to get into the Kansai region. Now, the Kansai region is warmer. It's starting to get more crowded. Biwako is the famous lake in the area. It's a very, very large lake. Basically goes from the east side to the west side of Japan. So it's not that far from the Sea of Japan on the west side, and not that far from the Pacific Ocean on the east side. It's a beautiful lake. Mie Prefecture is a good opportunity, very rural prefecture in Kansai. And then you start to get into Shiga Prefecture. Also some great possibilities on Biwako, actually. And then getting into the really, really popular areas like Kyoto Prefecture, very, very expensive. I'd say overrated, only in the sense that you can get some fantastic stuff in Kyoto Prefecture, but not necessarily better than you can get in other parts of Japan. If you're really looking for that truly Japanese experience, Kyoto has it, no question about it, but other places do too, and for, well, literally half or more the price. So Kyoto, not a prefecture. Osaka, of course, the city of Osaka, you're going to have a typical urban experience there. Kobe, all of that is really what's considered the Kansai area. Kansai area also connects to, on the west side, the Hokuriku area. That includes Fukui Prefecture, Ishikawa Prefecture, and then getting back up to Toyama Prefecture that I mentioned before. Kanazawa is a great city. Fukui is a beautiful prefecture. Very, very remote. Some fantastic beaches on the Sea of Japan over there. I highly recommend it. But I will say that Toyama tends to be very, very affordable, but Ishikawa and Fukui prefectures, the further south going towards Kansai area, those prefectures tend to be a little bit more expensive. And Fukui prefecture tends to be quite remote, but quite beautiful, certainly. Moving further down the main island, that's when you're going to get into Hyogo, southern part of Hyogo. That's where Himeji Castle is. On the other side, you get the sand dunes of Tottori, quite beautiful, very remote area. Then moving further down into Hiroshima, now we're looking at some really, mild winters, and there is a little bit of skiing. There's a mountain called Daisan in the area that does have some skiing, but basically you're not looking at any snow really down there. The winters are going to be relatively mild. The summers are going to also be hotter and a bit humid, I would say. Now, most of the east coast of Japan is humid. Well, most of Japan is humid. The east coast tends to be even a little bit more humid, and the southeast tends to be pretty humid in the summer. So you do have to think about the summer. Also, there are some nice areas where there's vacation houses, but there's a lot more villages and that sort of thing in this area. Now, buying into a village is great if you're looking at being a full-time resident, but part-year resident, it might be a little tough to buy into a village. It's fantastic, though, to find a really, really good deal down in these areas. There's a lot of villages that are having trouble surviving, and there's a lot of properties that's very reasonable if you're willing to join into the community. And we've talked a little bit about that before. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next episode. Then Seto Naikai area, that's the Seto Sea, inland Seto Sea. That's across from Hiroshima, going over to the island of Shikoku. Some beautiful islands in there. The Benton Homestead I've been watching on YouTube, they're in that area, and they're fantastic. They got a fantastic arrangement there. I definitely recommend you check out their show if you have time. Then getting over into Shikoku. Shikoku is beautiful, also very remote. A bit difficult, remote by train, remote by car, especially the interior of Shikoku, very, very remote. Of course, you get some amazing deals. You can get some old folk houses and that sort of thing in those mountains. But you've got to work ahead of you. You just have to be aware of that, and you also have to really integrate into those communities. You're going to need the language a lot if you're looking at places in Shikoku. Kyushu, the bottom island, kind of the same as Shikoku, but a little bit more action. In fact, Fukuoka is, I believe, the fourth largest city in Japan, or the fourth largest urban area. And that's a very vibrant area, lots going on there. Tends to be, of course, a bit more expensive, but it's very, very reasonable, very convenient. The Shinkansen will go back and forth from Tokyo to Fukuoka, and then you can switch to other ones from there. So there's definitely a lot more convenience in Kyushu than there is in Shikoku. It's also, of course, a much larger island. You're looking at very warm summers, very comfortable. And some great opportunities for some akiya there, especially in the inner regions. You've also got some good vacation areas, Oita, Nagasaki. There's a lot of places around Kyushu, especially in the beach areas, that are quite popular for vacation houses and that sort of thing. So that's fantastic. And then, of course, we get to the very bottom and we can talk about Okinawa. Okinawa is unbeatable. It's an absolutely beautiful prefecture in so many ways, but it's also quite valuable. The land in Okinawa tends to be pretty high generally. It's pretty hard to find a good deal in Okinawa with regard to land prices. Of course, there are akiya in Okinawa. And the akiya often tend to be cement builds because of the way they build in Okinawa. So that's something you want to be aware of. It's not a deal breaker by any means. In fact, it can be a plus, but you need to make sure those concrete buildings are stable. Okinawa, fantastic. Of course, there's a convenience issue. If you're in the Naha area, that's the central city. It's not really a very big city, but a lot's going on because it's a huge vacation area. So, it feels like twice the size of what it actually is, probably. But still, it's not a huge city, and there's not a lot of convenience and just living like Tokyo or something like that in Okinawa. You're definitely remote, similar to what maybe like to live in like Hawaii or one of the other Pacific islands, remote from the main country. So there is a little bit of that, but it's a fantastic area to live. So that's just a brief, quick overview of some of the areas of Japan. I've certainly left out a lot of detail. I'd like to get into some more detail about each area. But if you do have questions about the areas, please do let me know in the comments or send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to answer any question you have. Just send the email to info.hakuba365@gmail.com. That's info.hakuba365@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. And if you are interested in buying a Kia, remember that I have started a buyer's consultancy. And if you are interested in that, go to hakuba365.com. There's even a form there that you can fill out telling me what kind of house you're looking for, where you're looking for it, what's your priorities, etc. And we can begin the conversation about whether it makes sense to buy a house in Japan for you, where you should buy it, what are your possibilities, etc. So please do go to hakuba365.com, hakuba365.com, and fill out that questionnaire. Or, of course, you can just email me. Thanks for joining me this week. Next week, I promise to give you a sort of overview of the things you might want to look for if you're looking for a house in Japan.